Hey y'all, welcome to Tears and Joy in Your 20s. I'm your host, Julia Light, and I am so glad you're here. Navigating your 20s comes with a lot of highs and lows, a lot of freedom, and a lot of uncertainty. That's why I created a space for conversation about all of it. On this podcast, you'll hear interviews of creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing big things in their 20s telling their story, tears and joy and all. I hope this helps you know you're not alone. There's so much to look forward to, and you can savor this season right in the messy middle. Hey y'all, welcome to episode 1 of Tears and Joy in Your 20s. I had the privilege of interviewing Madelyn Hicks, who's a New York City-based musician, and I'm going to read you her bio so you can hear a little bit more about her before we jump into the interview. Madelyn Hicks is a New York City-based multi-genre vocalist and singer-songwriter with a strong concentration in jazz, blues, and rock. Born and raised in Texas, her soulful, dynamic tone drew crowds across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, where she fronted her classic rock cover band, Madelyn and the Midnight Riders. You can often find her performing throughout the Upper West Side and beyond, and she's thrilled to be adventuring into the vibrant New York City music scene. By day, she works in arts administration and development at Carnegie Hall, where she raises money for the hall's social impact and education programs. And in her spare time, you might find her collaborating with different musicians, recording music, or playing live gigs at bars, restaurants, private events, and more. All right, let's jump into the interview. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Tears and Joy in Your 20s. I am so excited to have on the podcast today Madelyn Hicks. Hey, Madelyn.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, anytime.
I'm so happy to be here. I really am.
I'm so happy that you're here. How are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing great. TGIF.
Yes, it is Friday morning.
It is Friday morning as we do this. I'm really excited that it's Friday.
We're so happy.
Yeah, just been a long week, but it's going to be a great, fun weekend, and it's great to be here. It's been snowing in New York City.
Yes, it's January right now. As we're recording, it's mid to late January.
Yeah.
So snowing.
It snowed last winter, but it never stuck. So this is really my first actual snow.
Yeah, and it's so cool.
It's so beautiful.
The park looks incredible.
It's angelic.
It's incredible. Central Park is just gorgeous. Okay, well, let's jump in, Madelyn. This is a story form podcast. We really just want to talk about the tears and joy of your 20s, the ups and downs, because I just think that all of us kind of when we graduate college or, start working, we don't really know how disorienting this time of life can feel.
Yeah, until you're in it.
And how absolutely wonderful, but it's like a really tricky balance. So I know because you're my best friend. For those listening, Madelyn and I are besties. We became besties our freshman year of college. So it's been a long time. So I've been here for all of this.
You've seen it all.
I've seen it all, girl. You've seen it all for me too. But I think and I know firsthand that your story is powerful and you have had lots of tears and lots of joy in your 20s. Thanks. So I just would love to hear your story. So why don't we start with just kind of how you got to where you are today? You went to TCU, which is in Fort Worth, Texas. For those who don't know, it's a great school. I also went there.
Yeah.
But you did a double degree. How did you, what in college did you imagine, New York post-grad? What were you thinking? And then how did you end up moving here? And what are you doing?
Yeah, no, literally. What? Yeah, no. So, I went off to school and decided to do a double degree situation because I grew up doing theater and I really wanted to be in the arts in college, but I've also really always enjoyed writing and project management. And I kind of thought maybe one day I'll go the ad agency route.
Yes.
So my major was public relations and advertising, kind of rolled into one, which I really enjoyed. Yeah. And then I was also doing theater. New York was in the back of my mind, especially it was more in my mind growing up. But then I got to college and I thought, maybe I'll stay in Dallas and was even thinking I was going to go more the corporate route.
Yeah.
I got a job. I got an internship that then turned into an almost full-time position during my senior year at a big corporation and was doing that. And it was great. But I think I also realized, I really would love to be in something maybe a little more artistic. And so that started to prompt a lot of thought my senior year. And then as a part of the theater program that Julia and I were both in, we were sent up to New York on spring break to audition for a bunch of agents for Showcase. And I went into it really honestly thinking, you know what? this is just for fun because I'm going to stay in Dallas.
You were fully planning.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm going to be an uptown Dallas girl because I wanted like a taste of city living.
Yeah.
But But I was like, oh, no, I won't. Like New York, that's so much.
No, yeah.
But I also went into it with open hands and I was like, God, if this is meant to be something, like do something, with it.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was just like all of these doors opened
Well,
up.
yeah, because like
One after
every
the other
agent
after the
was
other.
like, Madelyn, we love you. Move to New York. It was like 10
It was
people.
literally crazy.
It was
I remember
insane.
being in the hotel room and thinking, who, me? Because honestly, in college, I did a lot of music in college. That's another thing. I did a lot of like cover gigs, like just like really fun little restaurant bar gigs. Like that was my really fun side hustle. So I wasn't really in the songwriting realm yet. It was more just like for funsies, gigs on the weekend. And I started a band. It was awesome. But that was like really my thing. And I wasn't really doing a lot of shows. And so the whole thing was just a shock.
Yeah.
But then
you also worked really hard. Like I remember you were like, I'm not just, you were going into it with open hands, but you were also like,
yeah, no, I took
work
it
really hard. Like take this opportunity.
Yeah, I took it really seriously. I just think that I'm really thankful for like the professors that I had that really believed in me because I think after just 4 years of like not really having a whole lot of luck, getting cast in the school productions, I was like, you know what, maybe this is just not. Yeah, but then it went so ridiculously well. I was like, what? So then I'm like, okay, I should move to New York. I'm going to move to New York. So much thought, so much prayer, all this stuff senior year. And then I kind of realized, you know what? Like I want to move to New York and I want to do this theater thing, but I also would love to work in the arts. That worked out amazingly well because it's quite a long story. But right when I moved up here, ready to kind of full throttle, go into the acting thing and do all this music stuff, I had a really scary vocal health scare and I didn't sing for 6 months. But I had gotten a job at a wonderful institution that I'm still with now that I love.
You can say, you don't
I don't have to be ominous. Why am I being ominous? I work, yeah.
Well, just
like,
look
I'm
up
allowed
on
to say it.
LinkedIn.
Like,
You're allowed to.
You can like literally look me up, so it's just no secret. No, but I work in fundraising at Carnegie Hall. Thanks. So now I work with the individual donors. Before, about a year prior, I was working as an assistant to the chief development officer. Totally fell in love with it and just feel deeply grateful that in this time that, I couldn't pursue the arts in a really like tangible, creative sense, that I was still able to work and still am working in a really like wonderfully creative environment, raising money for something that I deeply care about, which is music education and bringing, the transformative power of music to as many people as possible all across the city, the country, the world. Because a huge part of Carnegie Hall is not just the artistic programming, but also it's all of the, the social impact and education programs we have. That's what the money is funneled to.
Yeah.
So I'm really like just so wildly thankful. But after the 6 months of not singing, I had nodules. If anybody has ever seen Pitch Perfect, literally it's that.
I have notes.
Yeah, it was so bad. Like I physically could not sing.
So scary.
So jarring. Such a central part of my identity. I mean, obviously not my identity, but like a huge part of my being, just even physically, like even my speaking voice, like it just was so inhibited. It was really terrible, honestly. But I think when I came out of the other end of that, though, I realized the biggest artistic thing lacking in my life, more than theater, more than any other thing, I really just was like, I just love music.
Yeah.
And I want to try to be a jazz singer and I want to try to do the singer-songwriter scene. And so that's kind of, I came out of this really challenging chapter and realized, okay, now that I can sing again, I really want to go full throttle into the music thing. And so it's still like something that's on the side. But I mean, I really love it. And so it's been a joy, on the weekends to be gigging more, collaborating with different musicians, playing, jazz gigs for the first time. So that's kind of where I am now. But I also really love arts administration. So it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But that's part of being 23 is, since when do I have to pick one? I don't.
True.
Not yet.
No, you don't.
Honestly,
which is awesome.
maybe never,
Maybe never. I literally, which is amazing.
All about balance.
And I just want to say too, like I really had this idea. If anyone is listening to this and you're in college or you're like younger or whatever, I thought and maybe I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, I thought before moving to New York, I was like, I need to be like perfect at acting, like have all of my like creative stuff figured out, and then like get to New York. I had no idea that like New York is like where you grow. It's like where you try a brand new
truer thing could not be said. Literally.
Right?
It's so true. And I think I really like, I don't know. I think that's such an easy thing to do. And I have to challenge myself all the time and push back on that because I have this rhetoric in my head of, okay, once I do this and once I master this skill, then I'll be ready to reach out to this musician or this person or get this gig. But actually, it's just not that linear, you know? And it's like, I got a story. Can I tell a little story?
Yes, please.
Okay, like a couple months ago, no, longer than that. The other day.
The other day. She always says the other day.
Yeah,
It was
the
like
other day.
3 years ago.
June,
Like
in June. I was in Central Park and I met this jazz guitarist and his band. He was playing. And, you know, this was like in this beginning era of really wanting to get more into the jazz scene, which, you know, I didn't go to school for jazz, but I love it. And I've studied
a
it.
knack. I remember someone in college.
I got a
was
knack.
Like,
I got a
Madelyn, you
knack.
have a knack.
Yeah, and
Like
there's
some professors.
still so much that I'm learning and growing in with like all the theory and all the technical stuff. I'm still, on that journey. But I went up to this band because I wanted to tip them, but I didn't have any cash. And I was like, do you guys have Venmo?
Yeah.
Start talking to the guitarist. Turns out he's like a really, really like famous guitarist on the scene. He's super, super talented. I tell him, I'm, new to the scene. I'm singing jazz. This is June. 2 weeks ago, I randomly think of him and I'm like, he's not like posting where his gigs are. And I'm like, I'm just going to reach out. Because I remember looking him up later and watching his stuff, and like he's literally instructed in the videos from Jazz at Lincoln Center, like hello.
Yeah.
And he's super, super good. And I just remembered, I was like, dang, I really wanted to go watch him and study him. So I reached out, I'm like, hey, hope you're well. We met in the park such a long time ago. Do you have any gigs coming up? And he tells me, yeah, I do actually. I'm playing at Smalls Jazz Lounge, which is like one of the greatest jazz clubs ever.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm playing there this Sunday at 10:30. So I'm like, okay, I'm going.
Yeah.
Sunday night, I'm going. So I tell him I'll be there. And I go. And this wonderful, wonderful musician, he invited me up to sing with him at Smalls. And I had like a sneaking suspicion that this could maybe happen because, musicians do this. They collab, they say, come up, sing a song during my set. But also beforehand, I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough for this. Like, I'll never be good enough. Like, I was so like freaked out about it. But then I'm like, wow, I'm so happy that I went. And I'm so happy that when he invited me up, I said yes. Because even though there was this huge part of my brain saying like, you're not at that level yet. You're not there yet.
Yeah.
Like, no. Do not do that to yourself.
You get there by like doing it.
Literally, you get there by doing
being bold
it.
and like going for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I look back and I'm like, okay, were there like choices I could have made and taken more variety with the melody and on a different like, sure. Whatever.
It's your first time.
Literally, whatever. But like, I just crossed something off my bucket list. Like, I sang a song at Smalls.
That's
like,
so cool.
Literally, I was like, this is absolutely insanity that this happened. It's just the kindness of God. But like,
literally,
it's also like, thank God I didn't gaslight myself into thinking that I needed to have literally the real book memorized and every like, part of like everything known about jazz, and I needed to have a degree from Juilliard in order to be worthy to sing one song, like
that you were invited to sing, that you didn't even like go there to sing.
No, I just went to listen.
All you had to do was say yes.
Exactly. You have to just say yes, even if you don't feel like you're perfect at something. And that is the beauty of New York, is we're all learning and growing. Yes. And that's the beauty of anywhere. You can't wait until you feel like you're a master at something.
Yeah.
Because you learn by doing.
Exactly. And it's like, you're not just you can't just like sit at home and like prepare. Like, sitting at home doesn't really prepare you. Even if you're doing the work. Like, I just think I like lived at home for a little bit with my parents before I moved. And so I just think about that. It's like, because I moved sooner than I thought I was ready, and I'm so glad I did.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I know. Because we had this whole timeline we were talking about, like, because Julia came up and visited around her birthday and really realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to move here.
Yeah.
But you were literally saying, like, yeah, it'll be next summer.
I was like 14 months away, and then it was 6 months.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, I'm so thankful that you didn't wait.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm so thankful. Yeah, because, oh my gosh, just so much growth and joy and
you
wonderful
too.
things
Like you could have easily been like, oh, I got an agent, but I'm gonna stay in Dallas and like work professionally in Dallas for a year in theater.
Yeah, and like build up my regional.
You were
whatever.
just like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you just got to do it. Just do it.
Just do it. Okay. So I want to talk more about your music career. But first, I would like to go back to talking about your season of nodules. So can you just like take us into that a little bit more? Because I think like it can be easy to be like, I had this hard thing moving right along. Like I just think we all have those seasons and like we learn and grow so much. And I know you did so much. And so I want to hear about that.
No, I'd love to share. And I hope it's an encouragement to anyone just really going through it because it will get better, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you may not identify what exactly the purpose and the lesson learned is in the moment as you're going through it. But at some point you will down the line.
True.
And I think I'm such an instant gratification person that when this was happening to me, I was like, okay, what's the lesson? Like, this just sucks. And now, though, like months out from it, I'm like, oh, wow, that was like such a formative time of my life. So just like on the other end of it. But yeah, kind of what happened was, I showed up like literally it's like that $3, 2 bags, 1 me from Annie. That's,
I know.
$3 anyway. I'm so excited. I got this job. I'm like, we're rolling. We're doing this. Like, literally so exciting. And then my first weekend in New York, I went to this really loud party in Brooklyn. I didn't really like know very many people moving up here. I think I knew some people. Nobody I was like extremely like
a lot of peripheral.
Yeah. And like some friends, but just that it just didn't end up being that I pretty much felt like I moved up here alone by myself. It's just how it ended up being.
I
lived alone. Yeah. So I get up here, I'm like, let's fly. And then I go to this party in Brooklyn, which like was great. And I met a lot of awesome people, so no regrets. But it's like, when you're in a really loud setting and you lose your voice, but then, it comes back after a couple days. It just never came back. And like 2-3 weeks passed and I was like, something is really wrong here because normally like if I'm in a loud setting or I play a loud gig, like maybe the next day I'm hoarse and then I bounce back.
Yeah.
Because
you've had a little bit of vocal stuff before.
I've had, but never like this. And so, I'm starting to panic. And I'm also feeling like this really crucial part of me is taken away, not only as a singer, but also just like in my energy and ability to meet new people.
Yes.
And talk because I was so vocally fatigued. It was like physically exhausting. It was such a crazy thing. So that kind of starts to happen. A slew of scary doctor's appointments. I'm put on like a steroid, which made me feel literally crazy. Prednisone. It's just like there's a lot of weird side effects, and it really gave me like really horrible mood swings. So like imagine that, like
new in New York, alone.
Yeah, alone in New York, 22, don't really know anyone, no consistent friends, living alone in my apartment, and I'm like crying tears of joy, and then I'm crying tears of sorrow, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And it was also part of the transition, but it was like exacerbated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so all of that. Then they're like, you have acid reflux. I did not have acid reflux.
Be careful if they ever tell you.
I know. You got to push back on that because then they prescribed me this medication. Also made me feel like crap.
It's misdiagnosed a lot.
No,
I was told too that I had it when I had a vocal scare. Yeah.
It's a thing.
It is a thing.
It is a thing for vocalists where like it's a thing that can
affect
and
your voice. Yeah.
So then I'm on like omeprazole. I'm on it for like 3 months.
Oh.
They're like, you need to change your entire diet. You need to stop drinking coffee. You need to go on like this special diet. I'm like, literally like what? And I've gone to like an ENT no, I only went to the one ENT and she was like, okay, no shade, but I don't know. For whatever reason, she somehow missed the fact that I literally just had 2 big fat nodules on my vocal cords.
Goodness.
I still don't really, maybe they weren't as pronounced when I first went in. So then I'm finally like, I need to go to another doctor. He looks in my vocal cords and he's like, literally in his words, girl, you have nodules. You don't have acid reflux. You have 2 big fat nodules on your vocal cord. Imagine me like, I'm weeping. Like, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm like, I have nodules. Like, am I going to have surgery? Like, I'm never going to sing again. Like, I'm so losing my mind. Yeah, I'm so freaked out. I'm like, in this new job, and I'm like, I don't even know like what I'm doing. Like I'm learning so much. Like I'm not adjusting to it as quickly as I thought. Like what the heck? Like I'm on the train. It smells like pee. I mean, literally, like it's just like was the most disorienting couple months of my life. Like what an absolute. And there was so much joy in it too. They were like, I was meeting new friends who I look back on, and I'm like, wait, they're like some of my greatest friends in the city now. That's crazy. But absolute disaster. Like it was so just to be real, you know. And then we hit winter, and then I break my 5th metatarsal on my foot. Like this could not. This was like an episode of Seinfeld. Like it could not have gone more wrong. I break my foot. I'm hobbling around the city in a boot for 6 weeks. I am like, Lord, what am I gonna do? Like, and it was just so. Wow, it was hard. And then it's like getting dark at 4 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, I think I might have seasonal depression, which I didn't realize, you know? And because in Texas, we don't really do that whole like gets dark at 4 o'clock thing.
Yeah, it doesn't get dark.
Yeah, it's not nearly as cold. And then I'm also not able to like move my body, and like I've got this foot thing. Oh my gosh, jail. And so it was so bad. I will also say in all of the sorrow, I felt just like, I don't even know how to put this into words, but I think I really felt like the friendship of God in a way that I've never felt it before. And just these really tender moments of just feeling like, man, this is so hard, but just like this gentle, like hand on my shoulder, like that feeling of like, it's going to be okay. And I think looking back on that, I can't describe it. I can describe like just quiet, like lonely nights in my apartment, just crying out for help and feeling just waves of peace come over me that kind of exceeded and, you know, that peace that was still there even beyond the circumstances. And I just feel so grateful for that because, all things considered, it was just a really like challenging thing, you know? And then I think, you know, I know this is a long answer, but just like the last kind of component too is like, just like walking through something really hard. And I mean, like, thank God for like my family and like my dear friends living all over the country, like you and like my friends that I could call. But to be in a city where you're not really known by anyone, no context, like coming off of college, 4 years of these rich friendships you've cultivated, and then you're back to square one and you're having coffee with all these new people and you're meeting people like, you know, but there's not really that consistency yet. You know, it's just like a different, it's just part of it, but it's just a different time and a different season. And, you know, to be walking through something really hard and to have that kind of on top of it, was just, it was just a challenging, and then also navigating like a job, a brand new job, brand new place, you know, figuring out what that's going to look like. Just so much to figure out.
Okay, so you had this season of vocal unhealth and trying to heal and like very much like a winter type season, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just like upheaval and what's going on and processing. What did you learn in that season? How did your like worldview, your faith just
There were so many different things. And I think that I always thought about if I ever lose my voice, it's going to be like the most horrible, devastating thing ever. I've always like thought about that. But then it happened.
Yeah.
And God saw me through it. Yeah. And I think in that of like all of the comfort and joy and peace I experienced, even when this like extremely important part of my life was taken away from me. Yeah, I think that I just really learned that like my identity and my value as a person is not rooted in one gift and craft and talent. And I think that there was a lot of value that I put on that I didn't realize until it was taken away from me. And it's such a gift. I'm so wildly grateful that I get to live this life and do music and sing. Like, wow, I can't put into words how much I just love music. Like, I can't. That's why I work at a concert hall. That's why I like am doing all this. Like, it's wonderful. But, you know, when it was taken away from me, you know, and it was probably going to happen no matter what. I had vocal health problems, you know, all through college. And then it happened, crazy timing, right when I moved here, LOL. But, you know, when it did finally occur, it's like, it was just such a humbling experience. And also just really cool to like, I think it brought out a lot of other creativity in me too, though, of just like, okay, I can't sing right now, but maybe I'll start like dabbling in poetry and film photography and like there was
songwriting.
Yeah, and like stuff that I wrote that then turned into something later, and so many things that were learned that like influenced my life like 8 months later that I had no idea would.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think just a lot about like my identity, and also just like really truly I think there's been some hard seasons of my life. Like we've all had a lot of those. But, you know, this was just a really tough one. It was huge, transitional, like I was talking about before, you know, and I think just to experience like, you know, the joy that like surpasses circumstances and understanding. Like, yeah, it was so hard. And it was it was so tearful.
I know.
And there were so many tears, and there were, oh my gosh. I just remember like going to church every Sunday and just like being alone and not really knowing that many people yet, and just like crying and being like, God, please, like
Help.
heal my voice. Like, and praise God, like he did. And it ended up like voice therapy, and it ended up healing a lot faster. And it was really looking like I was going to have surgery too.
Wow.
And literally by the grace of God, I didn't have to. But
wow.
it's like, yeah, I look back and I could look back on this and question like, why did all this happen? The timing, what was the reason, you know? But all I really can say is that he used this for good. He taught me so much. And it's like this foundation was laid that set the precedent for the next like my life, just like my life and like my 20s in New York of like, this is the foundation. Like the foundation is not going to be running hard after my dreams. Like, am I stoked for the opportunity to do that? Like these God-given dreams that I have? Yes, I'm so stoked. But like the foundation of my life is not going to be my artistic pursuits, because life is fluid and changing and anything can happen. And like, and the joy and peace I experienced from the foundation, you know, of just my faith, like it's unexplainable.
Yes.
And just again, such a heavy, like dark night of the soul time of my life. I can't even describe how hard this was.
Yeah.
But holding those two, like it was like simultaneous. Yeah. Which is just a wild experience of being a human, and an experience that I literally, and it also an experience that I only know like it was divine. It was divine, you know? So
and what a gift to know, like, I am not what I produce. I'm not what I create.
Yeah.
I am not my voice. Like I am
a human loved by the creator of everything, literally. And that is where my hope comes from, you know, not what I can like turn a profit on or, you know, like produce and get great feedback on and my art, how it's received. Like,
that's deeper.
And
long lasting.
That's, you know, just when you have something so dear to you that you put so much of your identity and value in, you can't even imagine that thing being taken away. But then when it was taken away and I was left with literally like that, just gone, nothing with that, the source of my joy and peace had to come from somewhere else. And I don't think I realized that it was coming from God, but also just like this huge part of it was coming from music and my craft and my gifts, which is like wonderful. It's great. But like there's more, you know, and like you were like crazy things happen. And it's like at the end of the, hold on, I just moved my head. Sorry. At the end of the day, like, you know, the joy and peace that God gave me, even in that like horrible, depressed, terrible season, like was deeper rooted than anything else I could ever derive from friendships, work, and artistic craft.
Yeah.
And that's just like, I just feel like it's just set a foundation for my entire life up differently. That like I can run after my dreams so hard, and I can't wait, and I'm doing it. I love it. And I can do that. But at the end of the day, it's like life is crazy. It's fluid. Things change. And my like value cannot be rooted in something that could be gone at any minute.
True.
Like you just never know.
Anything, pretty much.
Yeah, that literally can apply to anything, you know? And yeah, I just think it was a really sobering experience. And it was also like a really humbling experience. Yeah. So I think I look back on that and just thinking about my value, you know, as a human, and realizing I might have, you know, like just so much of my life was stuck on this one thing, which, yeah, it's a huge part of myself, but also there's more.
Okay, so you went through this really hard season where you couldn't sing, almost kind of like this like upheaval season.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you didn't
Great
directly
word.
say this. Thank you. I've experienced my own upheavals
Upheaval.
in the past few years. But like it sounds like you are saying that you also processed a lot of your like deep emotions during this time.
Yeah.
Like or just like wrestled in your faith.
I wrestled. Yeah.
Which is good. Like that's such a hard thing, but I've had seasons like that too, and I feel like that's what makes life deeper and your faith deeper, you know? So tell us now about your music endeavors, because I've known, you know, being your best friend and witnessing all of this, both from when I was in Texas and now here in New York, like, you know, you appreciate it so much more, your music, and you know this is a temporary thing, and you know, I'm going to enjoy it. But so just tell us about that and tell us what you're doing and how you got into pursuing music in New York. That feels like a very daunting thing, but you're just like doing it.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's also, I don't know. Just, like going back to what we were talking about, just like holding everything in the right regard, you know? And I think
love that.
That also enables me to run after something really hard with all my passion and might, but also not to put like my entire life worth, you know, it's
hold it loosely.
Yes. Yeah. And so, and then I also think that takes the pressure off, and in a weird way, it makes it more fun.
Yeah.
And also like frees me up to do even like more excellent work. I don't know if that,
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So when I first got up here, I think a lot of it was just, I would go up to musicians at gigs and I wouldn't ask to sing a song, but I would just be like, hey, you know, like, how'd you kind of get into this?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, I don't know, musicians get it. Like, they love what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if they see someone who's also interested in doing it, I mean, I think there's some level of gatekeeping that can happen, but for the most part, it's like,
understandably so.
yeah, understandably so. It's also, they're like, wait, that's so exciting that you want to get into this. Like, well, yeah, here's how I did it. I'll tell you. Like, people are more than willing to share.
So you just ask.
So I would ask, and then we would, swap maybe some contact information. And, I had like stuff on my site from college and, my Instagram page. And then just kind of what happened, it all kind of just came about organically, which is really cool. Of like, some of these people that I talked to at gigs messaged me and said, hey, I have to cancel my gig this Saturday. I listened to your stuff. It's awesome. Do you want to fill in? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, yes. So then I play a gig, and then I'm like introduced to the owner of the establishment, and we hit it off. And it's like, okay. And we were well received by the crowd that came in that night. And so, maybe we can come back another time. And then all of a sudden I've got like a monthly spot. And then all of a sudden I've got a weekly spot. Like, it's just kind of, it happened in that way. And it's all, I just like see God's hand in all of it, of like, just even like the specificity of these little interactions. I'm like, this is so cool.
Such a good word.
Thank you. Upheaval.
Specificity.
Like upheaval. But, so, that's kind of how it all came about. So that was more though for like the cover, playing a cover gig and just stuff, restaurants, bars, etc.
Yeah.
Where you're going to be more like background music.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, like some other, it's a wild ride. Like another thing I did earlier this year was I played, or not, 2023, but I played last minute. I had a friend from college reach out and say, hey, I saw you're doing jazz in New York. And she works for like a political fundraising firm. Mm-hmm. And she's like, one of our clients, he needs music for a party. The client was a former Secretary of State.
Yeah, what? Like,
so I went and I sang and I put together a band, and literally just crazy. But I think kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, I really thought like I have to have so much more figured out before I can do this. Mm-hmm. But it was also my dream and hope to really do more of the jazz thing. So it's like, where am I going to start with that? I'm really thankful. I had this musician that I met at this neighborhood restaurant named David. Like musician dad vibes is the best way I can describe him. He really took me under his wing, and he kind of like taught me. Like we got together and just went through all the standards and played around with different voicings, and like he really taught me how to interact in a jazz band. And so when the time rolled around that I needed to call musicians and assemble a quartet, like, yeah, I didn't go to school for music, but like I can call out a key and a tempo and know when I'm supposed to sing and know when they're going to trade. Like, yeah. And so I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for him. Like, it's such a huge part of the story. Yeah. But so that kind of happened. And then I thought, you know what? I've got some buddies through work who are jazz musicians. They know people. And all of a sudden, I had my first quartet gig.
Amazing.
And it was so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how that started.
And then what about songwriting?
Yeah, and so the other thing too is when I got up here, even though I couldn't sing for so long, I started to write songs, and I think that was a really wonderful way to process my emotions with God, and also just like, I don't know, there's just so much, just of the transition, so many things I was feeling, and it was really helpful to put things down and into poetic form. And a lot of it was poetry, but then it turned into songs later when I really could start figuring out melodies and singing again. And just like so cool, all those kind of roots that were put down that then blossomed later. And so, yeah, it's really been neat. Like I literally on my birthday in May, like last year, had everybody over, like a couple really close girlfriends, and we had a big dinner party, and I sat and I like played some of my original music for them for the first time. And then a few months later, I had a clothing company reach out to me and say, do you want to come to our studio in Soho and record some of your original music free of cost? And like, you'll own it, we won't, but we just ask that you wear our clothes and we take some videos and we post it.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm like, this is insane. And so that's just like the craziest full circle and such an answered prayer. I literally prayed for opportunities to record my own music. And so that all happened. And then I got the tracks back in late December. And so those are going to be released this year, which I'm really excited about. So I'm kind of going more in that direction and kind of trying to do more of like the lineups at bars and oops, hit the microphone, at bars and like little music venues where you're gonna split the bill with a couple bands and like it's more like ticketed events. I'm kind of trying to move more in that direction.
Okay, because that's when you can play your own stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can play my own stuff at the restaurants and stuff, but it's just a different experience.
Yeah.
It's just different. But I had a gig like that for the first time the other night. Yeah, and it was just like storytelling. It was just like there were like 30 people in the room, and we just had a nice chat, and I got to tell them about my songs, and I just felt so wildly grateful for that.
So cool.
We'll see, but that's kind of the path now. But you know, who knows?
Okay, I love that. I love that so much.
Thanks.
I'm so proud of you. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
And everyone just keep your eyes peeled. Watch out, world. You're going to want to remember this name, Madelyn Hicks.
You're going to want to remember Julia Marie Light, too.
Thank you. Okay. Madelyn, wrapping up our conversation, I've so loved hearing about your journey. You're just such a full of life person. I'm sure that everyone listening to this is just having so much fun.
I sure hope so.
That was what we were like. We just want people to be invited into our friendship. Our friend Erin, this is off topic, but the other day, where were we? Oh, we were in Fort Worth. We were back for Christmas, and you played a gig at this restaurant in Fort Worth where we used to live. And we were talking. Yeah. And our friend Erin Fry goes, watching you guys talk is like watching a TV show. We're like, I know, but I had to, So, hope you guys are having fun today.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Well, I know you're looking forward to songwriting, but what in this season, it's a new year, you're about to turn 24, as am I. Oh, it's
I know.
So exciting.
It's so exciting. It's
so
just
exciting.
so wild.
Your mid-20s are approaching.
I'm going to be 40.
I'm going to be 40 in 10 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Okay, so... not in 10 years. In 16 years. It's a when.
No, it's a when Harry Met Sally quote. Thank you.
What is bringing you joy in this season, and what are you looking forward to?
Oh man, so much. Something that's really been bringing me joy that just kind of randomly happened is, well, it was right around when you moved here. Mm-hmm. Back in the fall, we all went to this party. It was just like a little house party.
Yeah,
It was red
it's a
flag.
housewarming, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a red flagged themed party.
Absolutely genius idea.
Such a good idea. When you arrived at the door, you were given a T-shirt, and you had to write what your red flag was. Mine was that I'm always late. My phone's always dead.
Yeah, mine was that I'm gluten-free.
Love it. It was such a fun night. But anyway, we met a lot of really awesome people who have since...
It's easy to talk to new people when you're like, what's that red flag on your shirt?
Yeah, literally. It's very disarming. And we met a lot of really nice people that have since become like some of our best friends.
Yeah.
But I think what was really cool that like just kind of started was one of the people we met is a songwriter, and I got together and wrote a little bit with him, and then we wrote, we started writing in groups, and like it's almost like all of a sudden I realized like, why haven't I been doing this sooner? Like I love writing with people. I love like getting together and
so fun.
doing creative things, and like with all of my friends, like whether they're singers and musicians or not, like even just getting together and like writing, it's been so sweet, and it's challenged me creatively so much, and I'm just so excited. Like a couple weeks ago, we got together and wrote a really great song with 3 other friends.
I had it stuck in my head yesterday.
I did too. Stop it. But
look out for that. Maybe
I
this
know,
year
maybe,
too.
right? Yeah, it's gonna be like Fleetwood Mac vibes, 4-part harmonies. Yeah, and so I don't know. That's just been really joyful and fun. That's been really joyful and fun. Just getting together and creating with people. It's been really joyful and fun.
It's really joyful and fun. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a gift of New York, is just how creative everyone
I
is.
know. And
It's so fun.
And I feel like, yeah, it is New York, which is amazing. But for anyone out there who's like,
Hey, you don't have to live in New York.
I want to like write more songs, like get together with your friends and just do it.
Yeah.
Like it's so fun. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited just for more music, more just exciting, adventurous gigs. And yeah, I think I've got the stream on my birthday. Like this will be so funny, like months from now if it pulls through. But I would really love to, I think it's helpful to have a good deadline for myself because it's easy to put things off, But I'd really love to do like an album release kind of show on my birthday, and maybe just like get together and play some music and have friends come up and sing and play, and
a birthday party concert.
yeah, do it on like a rooftop or do it some other cool place.
Yeah.
So that would be like the coolest thing ever. And yeah, I'm just stoked. It's going to be a great year.
It is going to be a great year. There's just so much to look forward to.
There really is.
Like there's so much that's not figured out, and you don't know what it's going to look like, but there's so much to look forward to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactamente.
Oh, well, Madelyn, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and just sharing your joy and your tears with us. You rock. Like being extra weird today because we have Bestie Girl on the podcast.
Yeah. No, that was great. Joy in your tears.
Joy in your tears. It makes me think of best friends. Best friends. Okay.
Not the SpongeBob.
That's our song about ourselves. Okay. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. Madelyn, where can we find you? If people are like, this girl rocks.
Oh my
Follow
gosh.
her on Instagram.
Thank
I want to come to her gig. I want to listen to her on Spotify. Not yet, but
hopefully one day.
Yeah.
Madelyn, Madelyn, Hicks, Hicks, music.
On Instagram.
On Instagram. Yeah, and then my name on Spotify one day.
Is Madelyn.
Yeah, it's just my name,
Yeah.
Unless I wanted to be like
Madelyn Magical. So stupid. Oh, I hope I cut that out.
No, you should keep it.
No, I'll keep it
was
in.
endearing.
Oh, thank you.
Madelyn Jane.
No. Middle names are meh.
Yeah, it's
Depending
kind
on
of
the
corny.
person.
It depends. If you got a really cool middle name,
Yeah.
it's
Just
like
depends.
Slay. But
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks
okay.
for listening, guys.
Yeah. Thank y'all for joining us. We'll see you next week. Go enjoy your life. Tears and joy and all.